Good morning and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt.
I'm Eric.
And this week it's the road edition for Christmas. If it looks a little bit different to you, that is because I'm currently in California where we are celebrating Christmas with both my extended family and my wife's extended family. But I did see all the movies that dropped on Christmas Day. Eric saw two of the biggest ones that dropped on Christmas Day. So we are excited to relive those highs, especially for those of you that are going to be going out post-holiday malaise, this weird time between Christmas and New Year's where you're not sure what day it is or what responsibilities you might have in life. There are a lot of movies. We got two big ones that opened the Friday before Christmas, then 5 movies opening in either wide or limited release on Christmas Day. So it's almost an entirely new theater lineup when you go down there if you haven't been in a couple weeks. And one of those, probably the biggest, most anticipated one, at least for the two of us, is Robert Eggers' take on Nosferatu. We had a film titled Nosferatu, a silent film with starring Max Schrenk in 1922. If you have never seen that, it is actually streaming on Prime Video. I watched that this weekend or during the week. I kind of lose track of the days when we're on these holiday times.
Yes.
But this film is based on the screenplay for that original 1922 silent film and also Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel. This one follows, sets in Germany in the 1800s, where a young Thomas Hutter, played by Nicholas Hoult, has recently married his wife Ellen, Lily Rose Depp, who has somewhat of a troubled past and a history of, they call it hysterics or mental instability. Nothing a good bloodletting can't cure. 1830s.
Right.
Listen,
Melancholy. Yeah.
he leaves Ellen in the care of his good friend the Harding, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson and Emma Corrin, and heads off to Transylvania to conduct a real estate transaction with the not too creepy Count Orlok. Just kidding. He is very unsettling. You probably wouldn't have recognized him with either that really deep voice affectation or the incredible prosthetics, but that is Bill Skarsgård playing his trade beautifully in yet another distinctly creepy role. Eventually, they return to this small town in Germany, and a lot of bad things happen for the populace there. Eric, this movie, it has been a rich year for horror movies. We've talked about that throughout 2024, and I'm pleased as punch that we're ending with the best for last. Horror is a broad umbrella. Some people only think of like graphic slasher films. I've always thought of thrillers and suspense films. I think it's a broad umbrella, and this fits right in there to me beautifully. Very gothic. What Robert Eggers does with shots and shot selection and building mood and the costumes and everything was just masterful. I was immediately taken with the look that he crafts here and the world building here. And it's paired with two great performances, I think, from Depp and from Bill Skarsgård, who he already gave us one Haunting of Our Nightmares with the clown Pennywise from It, and now has given us a completely different octave of his voice and a completely different traumatizing character. I love this one a lot. I'm giving it 2 thumbs up. I actually have this, not to spoil next week, but pretty high up on my list of favorites for the year.
Me too. Man. Okay. So I've been running a game for some friends, and we've been taking like large breaks from it. So it's taken over a year now to kind of do it. But it is a game that is set in a vampire story that's inspired by Dracula, Nosferatu, every kind of vampire story that you can imagine. And the satisfaction, of snow-capped mountains, a black carriage at the crossroads of a wooded road, haunted not really haunted literally, but like empty, vacant, desperate castle with someone lost trying to find their way out. Uh, Almost cultish villagers, the Transylvanians, with their rituals and their fears of the vampire threat, the plague-like infection of the evil that the vampire brings to wherever he goes. Everything was so it was so like rewarding for having been a fan of this kind of environment and things like that. And I think we accidentally stumbled across. We talked a while ago around. I don't know if it was when we talked about Dracula 2000 or what, where I brought up. It's weird. I've actually seen a lot of vampire movies, and I like didn't expect that I had been so indoctrinated into like vampire film lore. But um this, is based on the screenplay for the original Nosferatu, but it bears a striking resemblance to the 1970s Werner Herzog Nosferatu. There are a lot of beats that are similar and a lot of interesting choices, like when Orlok's eyes are not black, but like that reflective like light is there's cues. And I don't know. I don't want to give anything away from this, except I will give away that there is a mustache, and it was very distracting to me. I found myself thinking like, so he shaves here, but he doesn't shave here. What a choice this is! Like, I don't know. My only two tiny nitpicks about the movie are that the mustache, and if you have everyone in Germany speaking English with British accents, you're pretty much in England. Like it was very, especially because when you have Dracula adaptations, you have it set so often not in Germany. It was very easy for me to forget that that's where they were. But no, like it the movie was fantastic. I really enjoyed every performance. I've heard some people like nitpick Aaron Taylor Johnson and some of the more like outlandish gyrating moments from Lily Rose Depp, but I don't know. I kind of bought into the whole thing. I think we saw earlier this year in what was it? The first Omen, we saw like a gyrating performance that didn't work for me, and there was kind of a contrast there. I think Lily Rose Depp was fantastic. I think I really, really enjoyed the exploration of sexuality here, which is so much a part of vampire movie like culture, but this did not try to make it sexy. This was like kind of horrifying, and it's in this way that like a creature, a humanoid creature, can just sort of want to possess someone like they're something that they like deserve, and they like just everything about like, you got to come to me willingly, but so it's on you if you come to me. And just like the implications of the relationship between Lily Rose Depp and Bill Skarsgård. I almost wish there was a little bit more understanding of like how she is being compelled, but I really think that there's just enough to chew on to really for there to be a satisfying like understanding of what the threat is, what the dread is in Hersta coming to this sort of evil. And I think that drives every character's relationship in the movie. I think we understand everyone through their context with Count Orlok. Like Nicholas Holt, he's just like a guy, and he's her husband, and we know some about him, but we know a lot about his character through his choices that he makes.
He doesn't do well with vampires either,
He doesn't.
Or Renfield.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we should mention that at least once. How Nicholas Holt is in just all of the monster
the
movies.
most comedic of vampire movies and the
Yeah.
least comedic of vampire.
Well, and his whole track record of playing Beast in X-Men and in Jack the Giant Slayer and like I can't remember everything right now, but he's just in so much monster stuff. And it's interesting that he keeps choosing it. But funny enough, also Willem Dafoe, who played Nosferatu in Shadow of the Vampire, is another person who chose again to be in this. And it's a lot of the cast of like choosing to do something here that they've done before. And it goes back to Robert Eggers choosing to do something that's been done before, which is out of character for his track record. Um, I don't know. Like I can sit in the visuals in this movie like it's a hot tub and just sit and enjoy it. And um yeah, I think that's mostly everything. It just really worked for me.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job with this one. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more next week, but definitely if you are a gothic horror fan or just a fan of beautifully crafted worlds, you know, if you're just somebody that appreciates technique in film, I think this would do it for you because some of the shots I was blown away. The use of color and phasing into black and white I thought worked really well. The use of shadow was pretty incredible. But if you're not looking for death and plague and a lot of rats on your holiday fare, we do
Wolves.
have we do have other options. You could just stare into the saccharine face of Timothy Chalamet as he channels his great inner Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. This comes from James Mangold, who previously gave us a biopic, Walk the Line, also gave us the best one of the best comic book films in Wolverine in Logan. But this one features Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan, takes place between 1961 and 1965, kind of the early start of his career. Looking at a couple of relationships. One is the relationship with other singer Joan Baez, and one is with a girlfriend named Sylvie Russo, who is actually a composite. I think that was one of the big things they changed from reality. Bob Dylan didn't want to use the real lady's name. But you're kind of seeing how he goes through, gets his start with folk music, comes up with some of his great hits, and it culminates with his performance at the Newport Festival in 1965, where he dared to go electric. It is actually based on the book from Elijah Wald called Dylan Goes Electric. Mangold worked on the script here with the fellow writer Jay Cox and then directs this one. I liked the music. I really liked the performances and the way this comes together. Timothy Chalamet was already near the top of my performance list for Dune 2, and he just doubled himself out here. I thought he was incredible. I really liked Monica Barbaro as Joan Baez as well. Kind of an interesting performance from Edward Norton as Pete Seeger. One I really kind of liked, which I thought was tough. We saw poor Scoot McNairy get stuck in what was one of my least favorite horror movies of the year in Speak No Evil. Here he plays a Woody Guthrie who really doesn't have the ability to speak, and he's only in a few scenes, but I thought he was pretty incredible with his expressiveness and adding to that story and his playing off of both Norton and Chalamet. I thought that was pretty impressive to me. I enjoyed this overall. I'm giving it a solid thumbs up. I thought they did a really good job with it.
I forgot to give Nosferatu 2 thumbs up.
I figured you liked it.
So yeah. It's just like the mustache, you know? It's like it's so close to whatever. A Complete Unknown. I had a really special experience watching this. So my take on the movie might be a little biased. It's 1 thumb up for me, and it's only 1 thumb up for me because there's a section of the movie where I feel like it glazed over what seemed like an important part of his life. And it's around the time that he has split up with Sylvie for the first time, and he makes the decision to start using electric instruments behind the scenes, and then he's late to Pete Seeger's show, and then shows up there, and they still seem on good terms, but he's still in this recording booth, just really quickly picking up these friends who were all famous people who wanted to be famous, and are all playing music with him, and he's recording his album that is going to be released, that is electric, and it all was happening so fast that I felt like I didn't understand, or I did understand. I didn't follow his kind of desire to shift as an artist. I mean, like, they make it pretty clear from early on that he doesn't want to be defined by folk. And it's fascinating to me that I Bob Dylan seems to me like one of the kinds of people that I really admire, someone who found their path early in life and stuck to that path, hell or high water, to become successful, just knowing inherently what they wanted to do. And um I got to watch this movie with my dad, who was 4 years old in 1961 and 8 years old in 1965. And he was able to speak a lot to kind of what happened more later when he was older, but just how well they were able to get the set designs to replicate like the times of the area, and how uh the other reason that it's only like one thumb up is because the movie kind of has so many songs that it's like a concert, but sometimes they just play half the song. And to me, I thought, I was like, I wish there was just a little more digging into the characters' relationships over performances, and just like the tail end of the performances moving the plot forward and whatnot. But Timothy Chalamet is amazing. Elle Fanning was, I thought, outstanding. The actress who played Joan Baez, great. I really don't think there was a weak performance across the movie. Even Boyd Holbrook getting his sort of,
That was kind of fun too.
yeah,
as Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. It like I've looked up how much of this was fact and how much of this was fiction, and it looks like generally, as you put the pieces together, everything that was fiction was inspired by fact, and there is a truth to it. Like him actually showing up at Woody Guthrie's to sing him a song right when Pete Seeger was there. That may not have actually happened, but he was couch surfing at the time. He did come to New York intentionally to see Woody Guthrie. They did find a Woody Guthrie record with him, but the sketch of himself going to New York and the lyrics to the song that he wrote for Woody Guthrie on it. There is truth behind everything. I'm sure Woody Guthrie with Huntington's, it was pointed out to me that disease is a lot more obstructive. Like they had to allow Scoot McNairy to have relationship with someone on screen. It's not likely he would have been able to communicate like that with like severe Huntington's. But again, like it just all the choices that they made work for getting the point of an understanding of Bob Dylan and his life like down. Even Sylvie like is supposedly she is like a amalgamation of like some of the rough things he had in some relationships, but mostly Bob Dylan asked for her name to not be used because of this severe respect that he had. At least that's what James Mangold says. It seemed like he had so much reverence for this one relationship that was really important to him, and that person had passed away in 2011, that they didn't want to bring any unwanted attention onto their estate or anything like that, and they just wanted it to be kind of left at peace. So that's why it's one of the few people that like didn't have their actual name in the movie. And
Well,
yeah,
she wasn't a star, so not in the public domain. And
yeah,
yeah, I'll admit I don't know much at all about Bob Dylan. I did not look up how much this was accurate. I've never read the book. I, roughly familiar with his music, and that may have helped my enjoyment of this. I have seen people that are more critical are critical of the diversions it takes from history and reality, but honestly, I don't know what you're expecting from any of these biopics. I doubt much if any of them are completely faithful. They might as well say they're inspired by, you know.
Right.
I mean, just think in the last 2 years we got two radically different stories of Elvis. One that painted him as a hero because that's how that director wanted to make it, and one that did not paint him in much of a great light at all because it was going off of an account provided by a different person in his life. Where is the truth? Probably somewhere in between. I don't know how many, if any, of these biopics that we see are incredibly accurate, but I had fun with this. I liked the period setting. I thought they did a good job of capturing kind of that period, and the performances are really good if you're looking to dive into it. If you want to look up all of the history, or maybe if I had read that book, maybe I would feel a little bit different, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
One detail, just as an example, that I particularly enjoyed is that when Pete Seeger is at the concert where Bob Dylan is playing electric and refusing to stop despite the crowd, there's a moment where he looks at a series of hatchets and considers grabbing one in order to attack the switchboard in order to stop the thing, and his wife stops him. Apparently, there are accounts of rumors that Pete Seeger had done that, but there's no actual evidence to suggest he had done that. So they took this kind of rumored story and they created this fun kind of beat in the movie where you can't really say what actually happened inside a person's head when you're showing something that didn't happen on screen, but it's that level of research and desire to tell an interesting story that's faithful to who the people are, to have a beat like that in the movie.
Yeah. Well, that's two of the big ones that are out that we saw. I will give a quick rundown of the three other movies that opened on Christmas Day in case you want to check them out. I have written reviews across a few different sites, or if you follow me on Facebook, you can find the links in this week's Denver Film Critics Roundup, along with the link to our episode from last week on Sonic 3. But other options you had from Christmas Day, one of the bigger ones is probably Baby Girl, which is, I've heard people say, the A24 version of 50 Shades of Grey. I think it's probably better produced than that, but I get where they're coming from with that. I thought Nicole Kidman gives a pretty strong and daring performance. Harris Dickinson, another interesting role. That movie was not totally for me. I thought it was weird. I mean, it was intentionally weird, but it kind of lost me a little bit as we went toward the end. That was my least favorite of the 5 movies that opened. I actually enjoyed them all. My 2 most favorite are the ones we already talked about, Nosferatu and then A Complete Unknown. But there was actually another music biopic. It opened and limited on Christmas Day, so it may be around where you are. It's going wider toward the beginning of January, and that is Better Man. It's the biopic of Robbie Williams. Comes from director Michael Gracie, who gave us The Greatest Showman. They make a bold decision here that Robbie Williams' character will be played in Avatar by a chimp, and I think it's because Robbie Williams is narrating and kind of giving you the whole story of his life the whole way through. He's very involved in this. And at first I was like, no, that ain't going to work for me. But you really get into it, and they made it work in a really organic way. This is also an interesting biopic in that it focuses on a very narrow chunk of his life. For instance, Robbie Williams is happily married and has kids. You never get to the point in his life where he meets his wife, but you do see another relationship that had a huge impact on his early life and career, struggle with substances. This one very much dives into also the mental issues, mental and emotional issues that can come with stardom being foisted upon someone when they're a teen and not ready to handle it. And the fact that Robbie Williams is basically laying out what's happening in his life and his mind, and the way that they choose to play that out, and some of the paralyzing self-doubt that he gets at points when he's on stage really worked. Some epically well done musical numbers. um, I liked this one a whole lot more than I was expecting. It ends up being really fun. The last act and the last musical performance in particular is incredibly emotional. So I wasn't sure, even this one, you have to give it a few minutes in, even like 10 or 15 minutes. And I was like, I don't know if this is gonna, but the more that you give into it, just the better it gets. And then the last is The Fire Inside, which is a sports biopic based on Clarissa T. Rex Shields, who came from Flint, Michigan, and as a teenager represented the United States in the 2012 London Olympics, won gold as women's boxer. But it doesn't really just stop there. We tend every 4 years to see these Olympic athletes, and we get excited and we celebrate them. And then what happens to most of them when they go home? This one shows the space for Shields returning to an economically depressed area and troubled family and home life in the time between that and her returning for the 2016 Olympics in Rio, where she also won gold. She had done something no U.S. boxer, man or woman, had done before. And the struggle, in the immediate aftermath of the Olympics was very interesting. Brian Tyree Henry plays her coach, who kind of helps discover her and brings her up. I really liked him in that movie. Very inspiring. That one comes from Amazon. It will be on Prime sooner or later as well, but you can catch that one in theaters right now. So a lot of diverse options coming out in theaters. I actually did see Mufasa. Um, it's not quite as good as Sonic 3.
Oh, okay.
It's about on par. You feel hopeful because Lin-Manuel Miranda did the music and Barry Jenkins directed it, and everybody and their brother was a voice actor. It was fine.
Okay.
It was fine. So you have a couple of fine options for the family. You have sports biopic, a couple of different music biopics, a great horror film, and then if you want to see people getting busy in weird places like hotel rooms and workplaces, then you have Baby Girl. So you have the full gamut of options out at the theater. Hopefully you guys will get out, be able to see some movies, get some time off, enjoy some things, some great things available on streaming as well. That'll do it for us this week. When we will be back next Saturday, we give ourselves always until December 31st, because you never know what you're going to see in a year that can change things up. But next Saturday, we will go through our best of 2024. Looking forward to that. I know I'm going to rewatch a couple things just to make sure I still feel the same warmness in my heart toward them. So looking forward to that. Anything else to add?
Nope.
Hopefully you guys get out there, find a movie you enjoy, and we will see you next week. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.